Born in Medina, 10th Rajab 195 Hijri, 12.4.811 AD. Died in Baghdad, Iraq 29th Zeeqad 220. Hijiri, 27.11.835, aged 25 years, period of Imamate 17 years. At the time of the loss of life of Imam Ali Al-Ridha, as our ninth Imam was once solely 9 years old. Some human beings from amongst the followers of Ahlul Bayt and others doubted Imam's eligibility to come to be Imam at this younger age. Kulaini in his Kafi relates that the Mutawalli of the Holy Kaaba puzzled Imam for quite a few days earlier than he was once blissful and everyday him as the Imam of the time. It is in simple reality that the total episode of the name for Imam Ali Al-Ridha as Tatus, and his appointment as inheritor obvious to Mamun used to be a recreation performed for political comfort to get the sympathies and help of the Persians to get his empire lower back from his step-brother Amin. Once this was completed, Mamun had the Imam poisoned to get him out of his way. But the reality is that Mamun, being the most realized amongst all the Abbasid rulers, used to be conscious that the household of the Prophet had a specific kind of know-how which must be favored and be acknowledged to different humans as lengthy as strength remained in Mamun's arms and his authority remained supreme. This grew to be obvious when he arrived in Baghdad. Victorious, he started out a coverage of reconciliation with the Abbasid elders and also with these who had inclinations closer to the Ahlul Bayt of the Prophet. He reappointed Hassan ibn Sahl as governor of Iraq, who had brazenly supported the motive of Ahlul Bayt. Ibn Sahl, being the scholarly person, cooperated handsomely in the literary and cultural hobby in the emperor's court. For, in spite of the reality that there was once war and political turmoil in all instructions all through the reign of Mamun, the length marks possibly the apex of the Oriental Renaissance. There was once freedom of speech and expression which resulted in open discussions on many problems which had been taboos previously. Most great for the existence of Imam Muhammad Taqi, as was once the truth that Mamun's favors closer to the Ahlul Bayt did no longer quit due to the fact of their scholarly and mental method to Islam. Although after arriving in Baghdad Mamun changed the Hashemite green color to the black shade of the Abbasids on flags and courtroom dresses, he nevertheless influenced the intellectuals to have interaction in open discussions about the thought of energy and authority. Indeed, he took that motion as political necessity, for he did no longer prefer to alienate his Persian buddies and supporters. For no longer solely outstanding buddies of Ahlul Bayt have been appointed to accountable positions, however specific public desire used to be proven to the household of the deceased Imam Ali Al-Ridha, as one of the Imam's brothers used to be chosen to preside at the annual pilgrimage in Mecca, and it used to be, however, a brief time till Mamun married his very own daughter Ful to Imam Muhammad Taqi, as, according to Yaqubi, Mamun bestowed upon the bridegroom 100,000 dirhams, and said, "Surely I would like to be a grandfather in the line of the Apostle of God and of Ali ibn Abi Talib," as it is a regular truth that the Imam gave all this cash to the bad as a substitute than spend it upon himself, which his spouse Ful, who was once the daughter of Mamun, did now not like at all, and complained to her father about this. But Mamun knew the methods of Ahlul Bayt, rejected her complaints and informed her to stay like the spouse of an Imam of the Ahlul Bayt of the Prophet. The story of Mamun's first assembly with the younger son of Imam Ali Al-Ridha is interesting. One day, when the younger Imam was once solely 9 years old, the Caliph Mamun went out hunting. The Imam used to be standing silently with the aid of the avenue aspect the place. Some adolescents had been playing. The Caliph's entourage got here that way. Seeing the troopers of the Caliph, all the kids ran away. However, the younger Imam remained standing at his place. Noting this, Mamun stopped his carriage and asked, "Young man, why did you now not run away like the different children?" The Imam spoke back calmly, "Neither had I dedicated a crime, nor used to be I blocking off the way. Why must I have run away or be afraid? And I additionally understand that you will now not motive any useless hassle when your way is now not blocked." And quote. Mamun was once amazed with this mature reply and asked, "What is your name?" "Muhammad." "Got here." The reply, "Whose son are you?" requested Mamun. And quote. "Son of Ali ibn Musa, and quote. Mamun rode on. During his hunt, the hawk backed to him with a fish in its beak. Mamun was once surprised. He lower back again towards the city. Once again, he discovered kids enjoying on the equal spot, who ran away seeing the Caliph's soldiers, without this younger man who stated he used to be Muhammad, son of Ali ibn Musa, who remained the place he was. Mamun hid the fish in his palm, stopped his carriage close to the Imam and said, "Tell me, what is there in my fist?" The Imam replied, "God created clouds between earth and sky. The hawks of kings from time to time trap fish from there and deliver it to the kings. They conceal it in their fist and ask a member of the Ahlul Bayt of the Prophet, 'Tell me what is there in my fist.' Mamun said, 'Truly, you are the helpful son of Imam Ali Al-Ridha, Bihar al-Anwar, Majlisi.' Mamun took the younger Imam with him, and let him stay in a close-by house subsequent to the royal palace. It was once throughout this continued to be of the 9th Imam close by that Mamun had the hazard of seeing him intently and gaining an perception into the mental competencies of this pious household. Mamun convened many conferences throughout this length in which many intellectuals and pupils assembled in order to pay attention and research from the young Imam. Mamun advised the Abbasid hierarchy that Imam Ali Al-Ridha's son was once no doubt a boy of smooth age, however he had inherited his father's virtues and features in full. The realized pupils of the Islamic world should no longer compete with him. If they doubted, they should put the younger Imam to the test. This reply, although definitely stated in jest, amounted to a challenge. Impulsed by way of Mamun's name-callings, they consented to decide the boy's information in a contest with the most discovered authority then, particularly Yahya ibn Akhtam. Mamun convened a remarkable gathering for this open contest. There used to be anxiousness to see this unequal healthy the place a boy of 12 used to be to contest with the professional and ferment Chief Justice of the Abbasid Empire. People crowded from each and every quarter. Historians have recorded that aside from dignitaries and nobles, 900 seats had been reserved for pupils only. Mamun's reign used to be described as the golden age of learning. Experts of each and every exchange and career assembled in that exceptional capital from each and every nook of the empire. Mamun had a carpet laid by way of the facet of his throne to seat Imam Muhammad Taqi In the front of him used to be accommodated the Chief Justice Yahya ibn Aktham. There was once a pin-drop silence amongst the target market who waited to hear the arguments. Silence was once damaged via Yahya, who said, "Will His Majesty permit me to put some questions to Imam Muhammad Taqi?" As Mamun replied, "You may," also searching for permission from the Imam himself. Yahya stated to the Imam, "Do you permit me to put some questions to you?" "Yes, you may," spoke back the Imam. Yahya started out by way of asking a question. What is atonement for an individual who hunts a recreation whilst he is dressed in the pilgrimage garb? Aram. The query itself indicated that Yahya underestimated the scholarly attainments of his opponent. Drunk with the delight of function and knowledge, he thinking that the younger man would possibly properly be conscious of easy each-day movements, issues of prayer or fasting. However, the opportunity that he would possibly be definitely ignorant of the statutes of pilgrimage, or of the atonement of sins or errors dedicated by way of a pilgrim, by no means entertained his mind. The sagacious younger Imam used to be smart, adequate for the professional inquirer. Instead of giving a familiar or indistinct reply, he analyzed the one-of-a-kind elements of the hassle so dexterously that the target audience right now had an authentic estimate of the Imam's expertise and of Yahya's shallow-mindedness. Yahya too was once puzzled and felt humiliated when the Imam addressed him in the following manner: "Your query is fully indistinct and lacks definition. You need to first make clear whether or not the sport killed used to be outdoor, the sanctified location, or interior it, whether or not the hunter was once conscious of his sin or did so in ignorance, did he kill the sport purposely or through mistake, used to be the hunter a slave or a free man, was once he grown up or minor, did he commit the sin for the first time or had he completed so before, used to be the hunted recreation a chicken or something else, used to be it a small animal or a large one, is the sinner sorry for the misdeed or does he insist on it, did he kill it secretly at night time or brazenly in the course of daylight, used to be he inserting on the pilgrimage garb for Hajj or for the Umrah. Unless you make clear and outline these aspects, how can you have a particular answer?" Whatever Yahya's expertise may have been, he used to be without doubt a well-read man in jurisprudence. While the Imam was once unfolding all such important points of the problem, he had judged that he was once no fit for his ingenious opponent. His face misplaced coloration and the target market realized the scenario well. His lips had been sealed and he made no reply. Mamun wholly assessed his circumstance and idea. It was once vain to put any in addition stress on him. He then requested the Imam to clear up all the elements of the question. Yahya, silent and puzzled, gazed at the Imam. But Mamun used to be bent on carrying the count number to the end. He consequently requested the Imam to put some questions to Yahya if he liked. The Imam then stated to Yahya, "May I ask you a question?" Disillusioned, Yahya, who now had the genuine estimate of the Imam's potential and had no misunderstanding about his personal worth, stated in a humble tone, "Your Grace can ask. I shall reply if I can, or I shall get it solved by means of your very own self." Then the Imam put a query in reply to which Yahya admitted his ignorance. The Imam defined it too. Mamun's pleasure knew no bounds. What he had asserted got here. True. Addressing the target market he said, "Did I now not inform you that the humans of the Ahlul Bayt of the Prophet have been proficient via God with limitless knowledge. None can cope with even the adolescence of this increased house. The exhilaration of the gathering was once great. All unanimously exclaimed that Mamun's bet was once right and that the Imam Muhammad Taqi al Jawad was once a matchless person. The emperor then, thinking it beneficial to marry his daughter to Imam there and then, the Imam himself recited the marriage khutbah. This Taqi khutbah grew to become so well known that as a remembrance, it has been recited at weddings in all places all through the Muslim world ever since. Overjoyed at this auspicious event, Mamun displayed his full generosity, giving away hundreds of thousands in charity to the poor. When the humans departed and a few of the courtiers remained together with the Chief Justice Yahya ibn Akhtam, Mamun requested the Imam to inform them the regulation regarding the factors into which the killing of the animal was once finished by means of a muram, meaning a pilgrim in Aram. Yes, answered the Imam. If he had killed the animal backyard, the sacred floor, and it used to be winged and massive, an atonement of sheep would have been indispensable for him. If he had struck it down in the sanctuary, the penalty required of him would be doubled. If he killed a younger chicken backyard, the sacred ground, then the atonement of a lamb which had been weaned off milk would have been required of him. If he had killed it in the sanctuary, then he would have been required to sacrifice a lamb and the cost of the younger bird. As for wild animals, if it used to be a wild ass, he would have been required to sacrifice a cow. If it was once an ostrich, the sacrifice of a camel would be necessary. If it had been a deer, then a sheep would have been necessary. If he had killed any of these in the sanctuary, the penalty would have been doubled. Imam persisted to describe all avenues of penalties for the muram, to the astonishment of the audience. Al-Irshad, with the aid of Muvid, you have achieved properly, Abu Ja'far, and God has decorated you, stated Mamun to him. Character and virtues. Imam Muhammad Taqi has occupied the best function in human virtues and ethical attainments, as this used to be the marked function of the Prophet's family. It used to be widespread for the Imam to meet absolutely everyone, humbly fulfill the wishes of the poor, preserve Islamic requisites of equality and simplicity, help the negative secretly, deal with even foes fairly, lengthen hospitality, impart actual Islamic understanding to all and specifically to the students of faith and the like, marked his saintly life in full conformity with different contributors of this sacred sequence of infallible Imams. Common human beings who may want to no longer respect such heights of ethical excellence may have idea the new relationship, i.e. to emerge as son-in-law of the most influential monarch of his time, ought to have an effect on the sample of existence of the Imam and alternate his manners altogether. Mamun too would possibly have notion on the equal traces due to the fact spiritualism, which used to be the chief attribute of this family, was once in opposition to the practices of worldly rulers. It ought to be stated that neither the Umayyads nor the Abbasids had any private grudge towards the Prophet or his family. The Ahlul Bayt, however, they had been at struggle with the ethical requirements set by way of them. They constantly tried to smash the core of ethical excellence and human values which used to be proven as the polar famous person of perfect religious perfection, overshadowing their royal glory. In order to uphold their imperialistic and luxurious norms of life, these monarchs desired to do away with these godly saints who validated righteousness, compassion, faith, piety, fraternity and justice as the principal teachings of Islam. Yazid's demand of obedience from Imam Hussain, or Mamun's appointment of Imam Ali Al-Ridha, as his heir apparent have been two one-of-a-kind components of the equal desire. The strategies had been extraordinary, however, the stop reason was once the same. Imam Hussain, did now not bow to pay homage, so he used to be slain in the battlefield. Imam Ali Al-Ridha, did no longer serve the motive of Abbasid imperialism, so he used to be silenced with poison. Mamun, however, took it as a super possibility to serve his goal to client the Imam, who was once solely a younger man. The political sagacity recommended that it would be some distance less complicated to forge a younger man into the favored milieu, and consequently it would be viable to demolish the core of the Prophet's teachings in Medina or somewhere else in the Islamic world which, even though working silently, was once unsafe to the imperialistic designs of the antithesis known as Muslim monarchy. No doubt Imam Ali Al-Ridha, did now not conform to Mamun's designs, or to his desires, however this may want to now not disappoint him. Imam Ridha's mature way of questioning and easy way of lifestyles ought to now not be changed. But there used to be the hope that in all likelihood a man of a gentle younger age, who used to be added up in the luxurious environment of a royal palace, would develop into an formidable, merry-making prince, altogether towards his ancestral methods and views. With the exception of a few enlightened persons, anybody would suppose on the identical lines. But the world stood aghast to see that the younger son-in-law of the most unique monarch of his time refused to remain in the royal palace and lived as a substitute in a small house, consequently preserving the Islamic values of advantage and ethics of an easy and humble life. It is normally viewed that if the bride's humans are comparatively rich, they desire that the groom would possibly stay with them, if now not in the equal house, at least in the identical city and in a house of the identical standard. The electricity of the Imam can be judged from the reality that he lived in a separate living and of a humble trendy in Baghdad. After 1 year, when Mamun realized that the Imam used to be no longer thrilled with staying in Baghdad, he allowed the couple to go to stay in Medina. On his return to Medina, the Imam maintained the equal, ancestral, unimposing behavior. No physique guards, no pomp, no restrictions on human beings assembly him, no touring times, and no discriminations towards every person assembly the Imam and mastering from him. He spent most of his daytime sitting in the Mosque of the Prophet, the place Muslims got here to avail from his expertise and preaching. The narrators of hadith and different college students of theology got here to inquire about spiritual sciences, and the Imam guided them through explaining each elaborate matter. All the world noticed that Imam Jafar Sadiq's successor, seated on the equal mat, used to be guiding the humans toward piety, which used to be the corridor mark of Islam. Imam Muhammad Taqi allowed the equal quantity of freedom to his wife Fadhil and imposed the identical restrictions on her as his ancestors had executed in the case of their wives. He did now not care a whole lot about the truth that Fadhil was once a princess. Although she lived with him, he married every other woman who used to be a descendant of Amir Yazir. God had meant to precede the line of Imamate via her, and she gave beginning to Imam Ali Naqi as the 10th Imam. Imam Muhammad Taqi's speech was once very charming and effective. Once all through the Hajj season he addressed a gathering of the pilgrims and referred to commandments of the divine law of Sharia. The target audience covered realized students who admitted that they had by no means heard such an eloquent and complete speech. Many students got here to research the teachings of Ahlul Bayt. A series of short and sensible sayings is additionally left by means of the Imam, equivalent to the knowledge of his ancestor Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, as some profound discourses on theology and monotheism are. Additionally to his credit, Mamun died in 218 Hijri, 833 AD. As lengthy as he lived, no damage got here to the Imam. Mamun was once succeeded by way of his brother Mutaman, the 2D heir apparent, after Imam Ali Al-Ridha, as he got here to be recognized as Al-Mutazam Billah Abbasi. His niece Ful now started out to write to him complaining extra than she did throughout the reign of her father due to the fact Mamun continually rejected her complaints. But Mutazam used to be jealous of Imam Ali Al-Ridha, as, from the very beginning, he had additionally hostile the marriage of Ful to Imam Muhammad Taqi, as Al-Mutazam now received a danger to settle his variations in this matter. Imam Muhammad Taqi's reputation as a super student and the consistent gathering of humans round him as nicely as the reputation of his world-renowned noble persona irritated him. The failure of the political systems too intensified his resentment. All these elements annoyed him into enmity. In the 2D year of his reign, he summoned the Imam from Medina to Baghdad, ordering his governor in Medina expressly about it. Imam used to be compelled to set out for Baghdad, leaving his son, Ali ibn Muhammad, Naqi, with his mom in Medina. For 12 months after the Imam's arrival in Baghdad, Mutazam did no longer do anything. He was once hoping that the Imam would conform to the royal approaches of residing, and then this would be a supply of infamy for the Ahlul Bayt. But when he realized that the man was once turning into greater famous in Baghdad with his scholarly discourses with the students there, he had to act to quit this as all his ancestors did earlier than him and use the silent weapon of poison to do away with that thorn in his heart. The Imam died of poison on the 29th of Zeeqad 220 Hijiri, 24.11.835 AD. He used to be buried by way of the facet of his grandfather Imam Musa ibn Jafar. It is due to the fact of the two Imams who have been well known for their suppression of anger that the region used to be referred to as Kazimain, the two Kazims, the enduring ones. Razavi Sayyids. It is a truth that all Sayyids recognized as Razavi are in reality Taqawi. Imam Ridha, had no son different than Imam Muhammad Taqi. Had he different sons then the Imam Muhammad Taqi, then their offspring must have been referred to as Razavi Sayyids. But as Imam Ridha, got here to Iran and died in Tus, many descendants of his son Imam Muhammad Taqi had been additionally known as Razavis. One well-known pronouncing of the 9th Imam Muhammad Taqi al Jawad, as follows. Someone asked, was the messenger of God Muhammad ibn Abdullah an illiterate? Imam replied, no. The messenger of God knew 72 languages, in which he should read, write and speak. Someone requested the Imam about the angels. What are they? The Imam replied, They are the powers of God that adjust the universe.